And he says, would you say this is a good research?
No, of course not.
Right. So what would be a good research?
And I admit that my research isn't good.
How would you improve your research?
Well, hopefully talking to someone like you who can enlighten me. If Uthman did write it.
Well, we're not talking about Uthman. We're talking about research methodology for a layperson. How would we then improve our research to enlighten ourselves, to have some knowledge about other people? Imagine, look, I don't know this gentleman.
Yeah.
So imagine I want to know what he believes in ideologies, his culture, and I go to someone I know, he's his enemy, and learn all about him from his enemy.
My brother.
This is not going to be a good research, is it?
Oh, no.
Uthman is not Arab.
We're not talking about Uthman, brother.
Well,
No. You're not, brother. One thing, it's very important to understand what the problem is.
Yeah,
the problem is not Uthman. The problem is this gentleman, who is older than you and I, is making a judgment about other faith community other than his own.
No,
he's a Christian,
I'm not.
And you're making a judgment about Islam and how.
No, not about Islam.
Okay.
How
do you
started,
believe
the man there said the Bible has changed.
Let me ask you a question.
That's how it all started.
Do you accept?
You have to see the context. The man, my friend there, said your Bible has all changed. Blah blah blah. It's not the same. How many books wrote? And then I said, well, the same could be said about the Quran, because according to some sources,
which sources?
And according to what I've read,
yeah. What did you read? That's the question.
All the warriors were killed.
Subhanallah. Ya Allah, yes.
It was written by Uthman.
You are focusing on, my brother, the answer.
I don't know.
I'm focusing on the diagnosis. It's a huge difference. Look, if you want to, if he was a patient that came to your surgery and you're a doctor,
because I feel like I'm on my own.
You are not going to give him the medicine straight away. You would want to know which medicine is the best medicine that will work.
Yeah.
So, but you're thinking about the medicine. You're not thinking about the problem.
If you can educate me, Mansur.
Right.
Okay.
So now
how do you know they weren't all killed?
Okay,
and I
listen.
will agree if you tell me.
So now I'm telling you.
How do you know they weren't?
The information we have must come from the earlier sources.
Right.
The earlier sources we have is the hadith.
Right.
The hadith says many of those Quran memorizers, Hafad, were martyred.
Which hadith? Bukhari or?
We can provide you the hadith, no problem. It says many of them. So it doesn't say all of them.
Right.
So that's point number one. It doesn't say every single one of them died. It says many of them. Okay. And we know some report says at least 70. And this is a large number because 70 of the Muslims who memorized the Quran have been martyred.
Yeah.
This was an alarming concern. And that's why they said now we need to now have something to protect this Quran from being lost.
Was that Uthman said that? No, just enlighten me. I'm not being smart.
Uthman didn't say that. It was eventually come down to him so that he would make a decision to do a project to safeguard the Quran from being lost. Because how was the Quran transmitted primarily?
Orally.
By memorization. Yeah. So if the people who are transmitting the Quran are the ones who are being martyred or killed, then you will have a problem. That is why they said, look, we need to gather the Quran under one mushaf, one bound book. When they did that, I will explain to you the process because that's where the brother was.
Was it Uthman said, get it in one book? Was it Uthman?
One moment.
Am I right there?
One moment. As you want to know whether the Uthman himself compiled it or not, when that happened, well, I will come back to this in a moment. When this happened, do you know what happened? No. He did not say, go on, there you go, copy from this book and have it everywhere. There was no need for it. People were doing exactly as they were did before. They were transmitting the Quran from their memory. They're transmitting the Quran from what they've written. And they're writing and they're transmitting it. So it was there to ensure if the problem became very severe, they can always refer to this master. And what is this master? Okay, how did they compile it? How did they put together this Quran? Remember, he is only the leader of the Muslims, being the overseer of the project to collect the Quran under one book. Yeah? What did he do? We know that he was also a memorizer of the Quran. With Uthman. We know, radiallahu anhu. We know there were other companions.
Did he know your prophet? Did he know your prophet? Did he?
Of course.
Okay.
He was one of the
Excuse
close.
my ignorance.
He was one of the close companions. Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
So there are
I'm just letting
many
you know.
companions, like many disciples,
Yeah.
as you understand,
Yes,
disciples
yes,
of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They memorized the whole of the Quran,
Okay.
but they didn't just say, "Okay, fine, you know what? Here's my Quran," and make copies of it.
Right.
If they did, imagine they did that. You'll say, "But that's from that companion, Mark, only." What about other people? If it was only from Uthman, radiallahu anhu,
Hey?
Almost everybody's got bad memories as well. You never read.
Bad memory, yeah. Well, everyone's got memory, yeah.
yeah. So what if that individual, he made some mistakes? Yeah?
Yeah.
You could say that. So
Yeah.
in order to stop this kind of later questioning and doubt, what they did, they initiated a project in which the most primary material would be brought forward to be incorporated within this bound book. So he said, whoever has heard and wrote down the Quran directly as they have heard and learnt, bring them forward so we can be including them, and bring a witness also who can testify. So the Quran was collected by various people in various forms. They came and gathered, came to present the material with, whether it was written in stone or in a parchment or in the shoulder blade of a camel or a goat or in the palm. Steve looks, various materials.
I'm getting a picture of it.
So they came together. So every single verse or ayah of the Quran, one by one, was being collected by the primary witnesses who learned, got the Quran dictated in the presence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, verse by verse. So they did all of that. And the person who's doing that project with Zayd bin Thabit, radiallahu anhu.
What was his name? Thabit.
Zayd ibn Thabit, Zayd bin Thabit. He came to a point where there was one verse.
If you read it, you'll see.
People are not coming up with. Now, how did he know there was one verse still there to complete the Quran? Because he knew it from his memory, because he knew it from his own book, on his own copy. So did the others.
So was he a companion of
yes,
the Prophet?
yes.
Okay, yeah.
But he didn't just include it in his compilation official project. He wanted someone to come who was written it in the direct presence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Primary witness, primary autograph. He waited until someone came. Khuzaymah bin Thabit al-Ansari, another companion. He came with this verse. So now we have historical evidence that the Quran that was officially compiled by the auspices or supervision of Uthman, yes, was what? Remember, there's two times this event happened. One during the reign of Abu Bakr, and one during the reign of Uthman.
Abu Bakr was a companion of...
Yes,
Yeah.
the
I've heard of
Uthmanic compilation, which I didn't clarify earlier to you, is not about when the people were being martyred in the Battle of Azerbaijan.
Right.
That was the first compilation.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
During Uthmanic compilation,
Yeah.
it's when people are reciting, when they were in Azerbaijan, Muslim armies were together, and they were reciting the Quran in the ahruf, in the several ways of recitation that the Prophet and the companions taught them. At that point, they were saying, my recitation is better than yours. That was alarming because they were saying, no, mine is better than yours, and they're about to quarrel and fight, and very bad. So they came eventually to the notice of the Caliph, Uthman, and he says, now I will make an official copy and distribute it so that people can make copies of this.
Okay.
And he did an independent compilation and then compared with the first compilation, and he found
And they compared them together.
they were the same. So what was the first compilation? This is what I was referring to initially. In the first compilation, they were bringing all these verses together, and they couldn't find that verse. And that last companion came, and they collected all of this, and then it was left with the Khalif.
Yep.
And when the Khalif died, this is in the battle. Which time? It was kept with Umar, radiallahu anhu, Khalif.
Yep.
And then when he passed away, his daughter Hafsa. Okay?
Yep.
And that was then compared in the second compilation.
Right.
So if you look at this history of the Quran, you will see the first and the second compilation. It gives you such confidence in the preservation of the Quran, unparalleled even to the standards of today. From primary autographs. That is why the difference between the Quranic preservation and transmission compared to the other books is a hugely different. So one can easily ask, how was the Bible transmitted? You don't have those mechanisms of transmission. That's why today, when a new manuscript comes, the whole Christendom is like this. Is it going to be any different?
Well, there are thousands of different manuscripts and bits of manuscript they found of the Bible.
And
they
do they
do a
find-
similar thing. They compare them all.
Do they find these manuscripts are exactly identical to the manuscripts of the Bible which has been used to make your translations? They don't.
It's very complex.
They don't.
But I
They don't.
appreciate you explaining it.
So they
Thank
don't.
you again, Mansur.
That is
I
why.
didn't mean to make a statement out of ignorance. I was caught up in the passion, where the man was saying the Bible's blah, 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 blah.
But at least now
I
you know.
did try and qualify it. Maybe I wasn't clear enough that it is hearsay, what I said about Uthman and the warriors all being killed. It was sort of hearsay.
So just to clarify that.
But I shouldn't present that as fact.
Yes.
Which I hoped I wasn't doing.
No.
And
So
I
just
shouldn't.
to clarify then, there was
But I mean, if what you're saying,
two compilation
Yeah, yeah.
happened.
If what- yeah.
Second compilation
Yeah.
is by Uthman,
Yeah.
only to standardize the
Right.
Quran
Yeah.
recitation
Yeah.
to the people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The first compilation is to prevent the loss of the Quran,
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
people were being martyred
Yeah.
in this battle. Yeah?
Yeah.
The battle where people were being martyred.
Yeah.
This is with the 70 of them were,
Right.
they passed away.
Yeah.
That's the first compilation.
Yeah.
The second compilation, a bit later, was to standardize into one text, and people will then be able to read from there.
Yeah. Well, if it's, I mean, I will, look myself, but it is remarkable if what you're saying, I don't mean to cast doubt, but let's assume it is true.
That's our history.
Okay, it's true then. We'll say it's true, and it is remarkable. It is remarkable, but it still doesn't prove that the Quran is actually the word of God.
That is not directly linked to this question, but at least what this demonstrates, that the Quran is being preserved and transmitted with this preservation in mind, accurate preservation. We can have confidence that what we read today is the Quran that was transmitted by the Prophet ﷺ. Then you ask this question, knowing and having that confidence the Quran is what the Prophet left behind as the Quran from Allah. Is this from God?
Well,
Then you ask, how would we be sure and have confidence again that the Quran is from God? This is the question that we should ask. As a Christian, we should ask that question.
Of course, what we do.
How do we have confidence that the Quran is indeed from God of the universe, the God of Jesus?
Well, that's when it becomes problematic. Both the Quran and the Bible, it can be problematic if you read both, and if you read both a bit too literally, I think it all becomes a bit problematic. There are
When you say problematic, you have a particular history of the Bible. But it may not be, as I'm demonstrating to you, we have also the same kind of history where Bible has been changed.
Well,
You
not.
have 63 books, as you've affirmed, and you have 72, 73, or various 80, 82 books of the Bible, depending on which church you're talking about. Egyptian Copts, or Roman Catholics, or various others. Each have different number of books, not verses. We're talking about books.
Yeah.
When you are not even in agreement as to number of books that you have, clearly this is a massive corruption of the transmission of your religious text.
Yeah, but there are statements in both books which are problematic. Like in the Quran, it says that the sun sets in muddy water, which is not scientifically, you have to admit it's not. And it also it says somewhere that the sperm or something comes from the backbone, or is that in Bukhari? It says, you know, and it says if you don't pray before you have sex, the child will be, the shaitan will do some bad stuff to the child and stuff like that.
Let's deal with
now
it.
there are
let's deal with
there are
questions.
problems also with some parts of the Old Testament, which you pointed out last week, which are problematic as well.
But
So-
what I would like to do is to remove the idea of problems from the Islamic examples that you've given. You talked about how the Quran describes the sun sets in a muddy pool.
water, yeah.
Right.
It
Actually, it doesn't. What the Quran describes is a journey of an individual called Dhul Qarnayn, the possessor of two horns.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
There could be various individuals with this military achievement in nature.
Yeah.
In his journey, he came to a point or a time of sunset or a place of sunset, okay, where he saw the sun, setting in this spring,
In the
muddy spring.
Yeah.
Now, when you see the sun setting in a spring, muddy or otherwise, and you see it setting, that is your perception, because that's what you see. But the sun actually doesn't set.
Yeah, but
There
it
is
says
no-
it
one second.
He found it setting.
please,
That means
please,
it doesn't say it seemed like it set.
Please,
it says
please.
it was setting.
Please try to understand something.
Yeah.
The Quran says, وَجَدَ عِنْدَهَا تَغْرُبُ فِي عَيْنٍ حَمِيَةٍ. He found it setting
Found it, yeah.
in a spring which was muddy. Who found it setting? He did, Dhul Qarnayn. So it was Dhul Qarnayn's perception
Dhul Qarnayn,
of the thing. Now, when the Quran describes people's perception, it is their perception. Their perception could be scientific or unscientific. In fact, if you read in the newspapers or somewhere, like just 1 second.
Have you got the call?
What time is sunset today? Okay. Oh, you interrupted. Okay. Just. What time is sunset today? It's okay. It's too much noise. It's trying to work out, right?
I understand the point you're
No.
making. Well,
What time is
I try
sunset
to keep an open
today?
mind, you know, and I understand what Mansur is saying.
Okay. Sunset today will be 1757.
Yeah.
Is this scientific or unscientific?
Sunset will be, well, that's when the sun sets. isn't
Right.
it?
Does the sun really set?
No.
It doesn't. Unscientific.
Well, it does to us.
And now you're not saying you're being unscientific. So yes, in our perception, sun can set and sun can rise, right? Dhul Qarnayn saw the sunset, and he set in a particular area. We can go to a horizon
It sets in the muddy water,
That's
doesn't
from,
it?
listen.
that's from the total ignorance. We were total
Are you-
ignorant. Now we're not quite so ignorant. We realise it's underneath.
Yeah.
So
Different
when you go to a beach and you see the sun setting in the ocean, the sun doesn't actually set in the ocean, but you perceive it so.
Yeah.
Have you ever
I
been
know
to
what
a
you-
beach?
It's still,
Wait.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Problematic.
Sorry. Have you ever been to a beach?
A beach.
Have you ever seen a sunset in the beach?
Well, I'm from New Zealand and Australia, so of course
Have you seen one?
I don't remember seeing one,
Right.
but
You can see them in the internet when you go back home, and you can see how
it
the
looks
sun
like it.
is setting.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to describe to your friends, I saw the sun setting in the ocean, that will be your perception to your friend.
well, they might laugh at me because it doesn't sound. It sounds
They
a
will
bit
laugh at
funny.
you?
Yeah.
They
Yeah. If
will
I
laugh
said,
at you now, but they wouldn't have done a few years ago.
Hang
We
on.
didn't know the difference.
You have a very
what are you
strange.
saying?
We
What do you know?
realise the sun isn't setting. It's a,
Yeah, I know, but
It's a
but it says that
misconception
it
of-
sets in the muddy spring.
what we used to have, that way of thinking. Now we haven't got it, so we disregard it.
Yeah,
But we
yeah,
still
but it's a
use
way
it.
of thinking at the
Sorry.
time.
We still use
So
that
if you
expression.
have your friends,
expression, yeah.
when you write to your friends,
Yeah.
I was there on the beach, and the sun set in the ocean, and I watched it setting, and then it was dark, then I came home, and your friends will laugh at you. You have strange friends, my friend. Right?
Well,
very
I don't
strange.
think so, because that's a scientific,
No,
that's a modern day.
Even if it was your, even if it was your
Yeah.
scientist at Harvard, Oxford or Cambridge, they would not laugh at you. Why? Because these are the natural perceptions of the events that we see all around us in the horizons, for
So
example.
you don't read the Quran literally?
Sorry, I want you to focus, please. So when the Quran, I'm sorry, can I finish my point, right? Thank you.
you
Can I,
I'll let him finish.
You'll
Thank
be
you.
on all
Thank
day.
you.
We'll never get a word in. It's right.
because,
You'll be on forever.
exactly, because I want to make this point, and then
Okay, you make your point, then I'll
right.
listen to it.
So the Quran is simply describing
Yeah.
the perception of Zulqarnain, that he found it setting. Totally correct, because that's exactly how Zulqarnain saw it. Now, you can say this is unscientific, but this is how Zulqarnain perceived it. So Quran is not making a mistake here. It's describing quite accurately how Zulqarnain perceived the events. So if you were to bring